Okay, YouTube, while we're waiting for the new body panels to come in, I got a door skin on this side and on the driver's side waiting to come in. My Holley Sniper fuel injection came in yesterday. So we're gonna go ahead and start this project. We got the Holley Sniper. I also have a new fuel sending unit from Tanks Inc. While I've got the tank out, I'm gonna put that in. It's a 0 to 90 ohm unit that will work with my Intellitronics dash, digital dash, which I happen to have out right now as I'm welding on the car. I didn't want to take any chances, so I just have that pulled right now, and I've got the dip switches set to 0 to 90 ohms, which is both off. So we've got the in-tank fuel pump that came with the Holley Sniper kit. So that'll be job number one. And then job number two will be running the wires and installing the throttle body, which is right here. And it did come with the fuel line and connectors and everything we should need to do this job. So I do have an aftermarket aluminum fuel tank under the back of the bed on this guy right there. So very first thing is to drain that and take it out. All right, up underneath the truck, and the tank is right there. We're looking towards the rear. There's the fuel line going to the external fuel pump. So I am gonna disconnect the line right here, the input line, and drain the tank. All right, I've got the tank drained, 6 gallons. So made 3 trips to the other car, filled it up with this 2-gallon tank. And now this these bolts have to come out, holding the tank up on each side. And they're bolted up to the frame rail, as they should be. And to get to the nuts on the other side, the only way is to remove this board. So I gotta remove a couple of bed boards here. All right, I got lucky. I was gonna remove this board so I could get to the nuts on the bottom side of the tank. But to do that, I'd have to remove these, and they're under the tank. So what to do? Well, as it turned out, the guy who built this truck was smarter than I thought. And these bolts don't have nuts on them. They were actually tapped into the frame. So I can remove these 2 bolts. I already did. And now I can get the other 2 and the 2 from the other side, and we can drop the tank. And then once the tank's off, if you did need to remove these boards, you can get to the nuts. All right, we're just about out. Was able to maneuver it around both exhaust pipes. First down under one and then back out over the other. And the last wire is the sending unit wire. I already unhooked the ground wires. And the filler cap, which was 3 screws in the bed. And let's pull this thing out. All right, I'm gonna take this sending unit off because I think the best place to mount the pump is here. I have to make sure there's nothing down in there. This has to come off anyway to get replaced, so I'll take that off. Put a ohm meter on this guy, and it never changed from infinite ohms. And if you look real close, the wiper doesn't even hit the rheostat. So this sending unit was definitely bad. Good thing we have a new one. Okay, we have the sending unit out, and we can see there's a baffle in the tank right about here. So I think I'll be okay drilling the 3¼ inch hole right here. And to do that, I'm going to fill this tank up with water. Not sure how I'm going to get the water. Well, I just have to let it dry for a few days to get the water back out again. Geez, it would be really nice if I could tape something underneath there while I'm drilling too, to pick up all the bits from the drill. I'm going to give that a try. Yeah, this is what I made to try to catch the filings. I left the sticky side up, and I will work that into the hole and just kind of hold it in place. It's not going to catch everything, but it's better than nothing. And I'll just rinse the hell out of the tank when I'm done. All right, now that I got the tank filled with water, my tape idea is not going to work. So I'm going to close this port. I'm going to hook up a shop vac here. And hopefully it'll suck the particles into the shop vac. That's the idea. Okay, that worked great. Not only did the vacuum probably help keep some of the particles out, but probably kept the air flowing, so there was no gasoline fumed air, even though it was 99% water. And we pull the top off. Yeah, it was sucking a lot of water along with the fumes, so it was sucking a lot. I'm sure there's metal particles in there. Anyway, I'm still going to have to flush this out. So, let me drain the water and get all the metal out of this tank. Very, very little debris left in here. I think I can suck it out with a vacuum cleaner. First, I'm going to line the bottom of that with masking tape and file these edges. All right, we got the vacuum blowing this thing out. Ready to put this thing back together. All right, the next step in the Holley fuel pump installation is you measure to the bottom of the tank to the highest point on the outside. I got 9 7/8. And then you look at your pump type, and I've got the return list. So you subtract the 9 7/8 from the 13 3/16, and I get 3 5/16. So then you cut 3 5/16 off of the hose, and you cut 3 5/16 off of the mounting arm. Just an interesting tidbit. After you cut the mounting arm to length, this gets hose clamped on, and you cut the tube to length, the output tube. You have to put this little clamp on, and you can't get a socket in there, you can't get a screwdriver in there because it's down in. And luckily I've got a 9/32 really small open end wrench that I can get in there to tighten that guy up. All right, I evenly torqued the screws holding the pump in. I capped off the vent because I've got another vent over here, and the hose is already cut and everything and works fine. So now I'll put in the new Tanks Inc. fuel level gauge send-in unit, and we can put this back in. All right, one interesting thing to note, I've got 10 1/4 inches to the bottom of the tank from this particular point, and this is 9 inches. So when this thing reads empty, I've got at least an inch of gas on the bottom, which is a good thing. Give me a little reserve, or maybe the pickup unit isn't exactly on the bottom on the pump, but I think this is a good setup. Okay, I found this pretty interesting. Couldn't get the holes to line up, so I took the gasket off, and the holes line up pretty well here, but if you turn it just one hole this way, you can't get them to line up. So I guess it can only go on one way. All right, the guy who last did this job used these self-tapping screws to install the send-in unit instead of the proper 1032. So I'm going to chase these threads. I think it'll still hold with 1032 tap. Make sure I don't get any debris in here, and try again. When I started putting these screws in, they didn't feel right, and sure enough, they just they don't screw in properly. So let's go ahead and fix that. Got the wiring soldered up. I'll tape it up, put some of the shield over it, tape that up, and run these wires up to the front. And hook up the, I still have to solder the fuel sending unit. Okay, we got the fuel tank back in. Everything's wired, grounded, fuel lines hooked up. So time to start the upfront work. All right, next step is to install the throttle body. The coolant temperature sensor and the O2 sensor with its own mounting hardware, and then wire it up. So step one is remove the old carburetor. All right, got the carburetor off, got the new throttle body, whatever it's called. My PVC valve hooked up here. Distributor vacuum advance. Over here, my brake booster hooked up. I don't see that all on the new one, so I have to do a little research. I've got a couple on the back here, 3 plugs, and that's it. So got to do a little research. All right, I went online, and it looks like I can hook the brake booster up to this rear port, and then hook the PVC valve up to the front one. Take this out. The kit actually came with this barbed fitting, which will go in here, and I can hook the PVC up to that. According to the forums online, sounds reasonable. Okay, now that I have the barb for the PVC, I need to put this cap on the return line, since this is a returnless system. All right, this is interesting. This is the line that goes down to the transmission shift modulator. It's nothing holding it on. Can you say vacuum leak? Yeah, we'll have to fix that. Just transferred the throttle kickdown transmission linkage onto the new one. It used to be on the carburetor here. I just bolted it over here. I think this is ready to go on now. All right, a little minor thing. This is the holds the throttle cable and the transmission kickdown cable. And there's a stud that comes up that holds the carburetor on, and this bolts on right there. This is the old carburetor. The new carburetor, this wall right here sticks out thicker. So this doesn't line up. I'm gonna shave a little off with a file to elongate that hole to get it to fit. All right, I elongated the hole and it fits now. Certainly not the first time I had to elongate a hole to get the stud to fit. All right, I need to take this little stud that the throttle linkage hooks up to and move it over to the new unit. Right, the brake booster hose just plugged right into the back. Now I've got to hook up the transmission modulator, and there's another one in here somewhere. It's right, it's down underneath here for the vacuum advance, and luckily the vacuum advance line is long enough I can cut it and then use this little piece to hook up the transmission line, which I can cut right about here, and then it'll just be a short hop up to the back of the carburetor body, throttle body, EFI, whatever. All right, carburetor's installed. PVC will go here, that's simple. Brake booster, got the vacuum advance hooked up. I've got the transmission modulator hooked up to the vacuum. All 4 bolts are tied down. The throttle linkage is all hooked up, this return spring. So this is where the fuel line will hook up, but I'm gonna bleed it first. I don't have any fuel in the tank right now. And let's see what's left. The coolant sensor and the O2 sensor, and then wire this guy up. All right, installing the O2 sensor. The hardest part of the job was removing the wheel, and that's not hard at all. Used a step bit, drilled a 7/8 hole. This clamp, this will get clamped on there. First the gasket, then this little flange gets clamped on, and then the O2 sensor screws right into it. Run the wire with some tie wraps and plug it into the Sniper up in the hood area. All right, oxygen sensor installed. While I was up there, the wire on the starter motor from the battery terminal was barely finger tight. Glad I saw that. Now draining the radiator so I can put in the temperature sensor. There's on the side of the engine, I'm going to replace this temperature sensor with the one that came with the kit. I was tempted not to drain it first, but thought I'd better be safe. Because my Chevy small block had 1/2-inch threads and the temperature sensor was 3/8, I had to get this 1/2-inch to 3/8 adapter. I'll put Teflon tape on this guy. This already has some kind of sealant on it, and get this thing installed. Well, maybe the third time will be a charm. The wire for the Holley isn't long enough by about 1 inch. It's not going to look good anyway. And the temperature sensor up here goes to my dash. I'd rather extend, I think that wire will reach anyway, so, ooh, it's loose. Like everything else on this car. All right, so I'm going to swap those 2 sensors. All right, we got the dash temperature sensor. We've got the Sniper temperature sensor in the manifold. The only thing left is to do a little bit of wiring. The control panel on the inside and the fuel pump. Oh, and the ignition. It's got to be timed with the ignition coil. All right, we've got this thing wired now. Interesting, the pink wire, which goes to switched, I hooked it up to the old electric choke wire. And on my truck, the only other thing that was on that circuit was the old electric fuel pump, which I'm not using anymore. So it's a dedicated circuit, and it was easy to run that wire. The two wires that go to the battery terminal go right here, because I've got the battery under the bed, and it goes directly to underneath here. I put the negative and the positive. The yellow wire goes to the coil on the distributor. And the only thing left is to hook up the handheld. Tune this thing, put a little gas in it, tune it. Oh, I still have to hook up the fuel line. I was gonna prime it a few times before I actually just plug the hose into it. All right, let's go ahead and run through the wizard. The 4-injector 4150 is the TBI type. We've got 8 cylinders. We've got 350 cubic inches. Target idle speed, let's go 600 for now. Cam type, stock, I think. Kind of mild. No nitrous. And coil negative ignition. Oops. All right, cycle the ignition to complete operation. All right, let's see what happens. I got the dash out because I'm doing some welding on the truck. Sounds good already. Happy with that. Started right up pretty much. I'm sure it's just a matter of getting the fuel from the fuel tank to the front. Alright, I gotta read up on this a little more. Alright, interesting dilemma. This thing started fine cold. I went to get gas because I had to drain the tank to put the fuel pump in. And when I went to start the car, it wouldn't start hot at the gas station. After about 10 minutes of Googling, I took the pink wire and I jumpered it directly to the battery, and it started right up. So then I measured the pink wire while cranking, and it goes from 12 volts to less than a half a volt. So then I went to the fuse box, and the entire fuse box goes from 12 volts to a half a volt while cranking. Everything. And so what I'm going to try is, this is the power cord that goes to the ignition, and I just cranked it, and it goes from 12 volts to 10 volts. So let's try hooking the pink wire up to this. All right, moving the pink wire to the coil hot lead solved my hard start problem. And I've put a few miles on the truck since then. I gotta say, it runs so much smoother. Cold starts, smooth right from the beginning. Hot start seems to have more power. So far, I'm very pleased with this Holley Sniper installation. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.